What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the evening drive. Listen, if you're driving home right now, stuck in traffic, or you're just sitting in the parking lot, maybe you're stuck in the parking lot right now with the snow in the area, pretending you're still on the phone call so you don't have to go back inside yet, you're in the right place, right? This show is auto related, yeah, but honestly, it's for everybody because whether you sell cars, sell houses, sell ideas, it really doesn't matter. We're just trying to survive work and keep your sanity. You're going to relate, right? We're talking real life, real news, real opinions, and probably a couple moments where you're gonna be like, "Yep, that's me." Right? My name's Sam Cox. Along with me is my man Evan Walters. Evan, brother, how's your day today?
What up? What up? It's excellent, brother. Any day that we are on the right side of the grass, we're breathing, we're thriving. I'm in a good mood today, man. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean it's the sun shining. I mean it's cold, but the sun's shining finally. I mean, temperatures are like still below freezing, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I've had some good conversations recently, so I mean that's the important part, I think, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, today we got some good stuff, man. Today we got some good stuff. One thing that I did want to bring up, and maybe it's later, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking of it as we're going, but I do want to bring up the 8 pillars, right? I think that's a big reason on why we do what we do. So maybe throughout this, we'll list out kind of what those 8 pillars. Some of our listeners probably have no idea what I'm talking about right now, but if we could break down, at least simplify what they are and how we focus on them, I think that would be a good topic for today. Also, we've got some questions that came across from some recent episodes. Some listeners were asking some questions, so we'll talk about those. And then the main focal point of the conversations today are standards, right, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some recent conversations with managers and owners, and it just says salespeople even, and I think it's one of those things to where I don't understand why, but I think sometimes people like get confused on who should be held to standards and who shouldn't be held to standards, and it kind of the accountability part of it's like part of it. I mean, with me, I don't know, and you're kind of the same way, Evan, but with me, it was like I had my own standards, man. I mean, I had my own standards. I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah, man. You definitely have to have your own standards, own self accountability, self discipline. Like those are the 1% of the 1% people, right? But a lot of people don't have that drive or have never experienced that. Like when I was in, I'll just reference myself. When I was in detail, my standards were a lot different than when I was top producing finance manager of a very successful auto group, right? Like it. So how do you go from, and I guess I'm asking myself too, right? Because I'm curious to dig into my own thoughts, but how do you go from detail person to a leading producer of a massive organization? Like what changes through your standards? So if we're talking to Sam, if we're talking to somebody that hasn't reached that self-discipline or accountability level, like where should they start with standards?
I mean, looking in the mirror. I mean, looking in the mirror and like kind of like figuring out like, all right, who are you doing this? What's your why? I mean, who are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? I mean, we all have a reason. I mean, a lot of times it's because we want to make as much money as we can, or we want to be as successful as we can. But there's a reason why. I mean, we do certain things, why we do things. So, it's the accountability part. But I think the other part of that, kind of like echoing you a little bit is like why do people think that they can get away, or why are managers even think that if it's a high producing person that maybe they should maybe get a little bit of leeway. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to that. One is that I believe that results are the main focal point, right?
Mm.
So standards, yeah, like let's have expectations, let's have standards as a leader or manager. Like if you're in a role where you've got people under you, you should have first clear expectations, right? Like clarify what you're
There
really
you
going
go.
to get out
Yes.
of it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
main thing. Because at least in my past experiences, um, if you've got managers or people above you that aren't really clear and they know what they want out of you and you know what they need out of you, but it's not really clear how to get there, that's when it gets kind of gray or muddy or hard to achieve, right? Because I need personally, and I'm just speaking for myself, I do better if I have some type of blueprint, right? Like I want, and I'm not a bumper type guy when I go bowling, right? I'm not that kind of wuss where I need bumpers, but in life, bro, like if I got some bumpers or guardrails to guide me back, that's when I typically have my higher achievement rate or higher success rate. So I'm just that type of person. Like I'm very motivated and creative, but I also like to have some guidance from other people that maybe have done the things that they're looking for me to do, right?
So maybe that's where we need to like think about this. It's not so much, standards, because I guess that's kind of generic, but more of
Yeah.
the clear expectations, right? Is that where you're kind of like leading
Yep.
us down? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. I
Okay.
think
And like even having like expectation sheets and that kind of stuff. I mean, but
yeah.
besides that, just having clear expectations. Like I planned on like myself and Glenn and Rob Ruth, we were just messaging the other day. I guess the New York is now, they've announced their dates for their next High Rocks. So my expectation or my standards recently, they've been subpar from where I kind of been down. I kind of hurt myself a little bit. So they now my expectations need to rise. So taking that away from a car dealership, is that a way we can look at like having like clear expectations? Like I have these expectations of what I need to be able to do by June.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think personally, as the person that receives the expectations, we need to be willing and understand that it's okay if we don't achieve them the first go around, right? Like just for an example, if you get an expectation sheet or your manager gives you this, I don't know, this set of guidelines, and the first month you're selling cars and you don't hit it, or that you've been selling cars for 3 months and something drastically changes and you're like, dude, I can't hit. I hit 18 cars instead of 25 like I'm supposed to, or I hit 15 instead of the 20 that I'm supposed to hit. Like I think moving moving the needle, at least even if it's a little bit, like moving a little bit is more than going backwards or staying the same. So the effort has a lot to do with it too. So one thing that I did was not only take the expectations or the goals, their targets, or whatever you want to call them, that your manager gives you, but set your own realistic targets. And it can be different than the ones that they set. Obviously, we like them to be aligned, but if it's different, at least there's data or something backing, like, hey, I've got another target. If I don't hit that big goal, maybe I hit something else like 100% CSI score that month, or maybe I pull 5 service customers from the service drive, or I buy X amount of cars instead of just selling them, right? Like there's got to be, what I've found to help me move forward, there's got to be more than just the few things that they pick. I think it's a good, what do you call it, catalyst to help yourself develop other guidelines.
Okay. I've actually seen a couple like we'll cut off of this for a second. We're gonna come back to it because I think I've seen a couple news like articles this morning that kind of goes into this. There's right now there's a demand for clean, newer, used units. They're remaining strong. Okay. So people, the standards right now, the expectations are to find these more like frontline ready used vehicles. Obviously, how we obtain those is the other thing. But it kind of went right along with another part. Another news thing I saw this morning was the fact that auto loan terms, they're trending upward. All right, whereas the article, now I want to stick there because you're the money guy, you're the finance guy, and I know the article was talking about like having extending terms out because people are trying to be able to afford these vehicles. So why should we or shouldn't we be extending terms on these vehicles?
Yeah, I think this we can take it way back, right? Way back to where they haven't had 30-year mortgages forever, right? But it gets to a point where your average household income is not going to be able to afford a $700,000 home, right? So on a 15-year note or a 10-year note. So extending that gives you the ability to tap into a bigger market for not only the person selling whatever they're selling, but the economy itself. It kind of stimulates that. So I think that as things get more expensive and we as the median people aren't making drastically more money, they kind of have to balance that out. Because if they don't, cars get more expensive, people can't afford it, they don't buy them, everybody loses, right? Including the manufacturers, including the banks or the credit unions, like they bank on people buying stuff too. Like nobody wins if the economy isn't thriving. So I think the longer loans have a lot to do with newer cars being more expensive. Obviously, the slightly used cars, they're going to be more expensive than they were 5 years ago. So adapting as lenders and as dealerships and entrepreneurs, whatever you are, we have to adapt to what we're living in, the current living situations. And right now, things are getting more expensive. I don't know if you've been to the grocery recently, Sam, but my wife, Destiny, she'll come home with $300 worth of stuff and I can carry it in one load, right?
Yeah, right.
You buy $300 worth of stuff, it takes two of you 4 times back and forth. So it's
Right.
like things aren't getting any cheaper, and we all know that. It's just I think
It's the
that's the way.
expectation that that we need to like maybe sometimes rise up is what
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing, right? So
Yeah.
if the expectation is I need this for this, then we need to be able to make sure that we're educating and having a conversation instead of maybe avoiding that topic.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just understanding what you can and can't afford, right? Like this is me jumping out of my dealer mindset because obviously we're in sales, you can afford it, right? If the bank says you can afford it, you can afford it. But at the end of the day, understanding your finances, because I want to be known as the money man other than just making the money, but showing how to multiply the money, right? It's one thing to make it, it's another to keep it, and it's even another thing to learn how to multiply it, right? When you can have money making you money, that's when we've really won in this life. So, or at least that's how you get your freedom. That's not necessarily how you've won in life, but that's how you get most of your freedom. And that's what most of us, when you were saying that earlier, that's what most of us are looking for, right? Most of us are looking for the freedom. The money's just a tool to get us that. At least for me, that's when I figured out like, yeah, money's great, but what are you going to do with the money? Imagine you got $10 million today, or let's go, but maybe 2 million, right? 10 million, you could do a lot of things, but say you got $2 million today. In the grand scheme of things, $2 million, yeah, it might change your life for a little bit, but it's not going to change it forever unless you know what to do
No.
with it, right? Like the statistics on the Powerball people or the lottery people, how many of them go broke, Sam? You know?
I have no clue. Honestly, I would imagine it's pretty high.
It's almost 100%.
Oh, I didn't think that high.
It's almost 100% of people
Because they give money, they get money that they're not used to, and then they blow it, right? They don't know what to do with it.
They don't know what to do with it. They don't understand the expenses. When you go out and buy a $10 million home and you've got $70 million, do you understand you've got to pay taxes, upkeep? You got to pay all the things that people don't really understand.
People
right?
don't think of that. No.
So it's just being
Just like when you win a car,
Yeah.
like you win a car on like a game show, and you still got to pay taxes on that. The amount of people that probably drove around on that car was probably slim because you still had to pay the taxes on that vehicle.
That's right. That's right. So just knowing like it's one thing to make the money, it's another thing to multiply the money and to keep it. So yeah, that's my big spiel on that. I think that as time goes, things get more expensive. We find out ways that the majority of people can afford it, and one of those in the auto world is making the term longer, and eventually it affects the rate a little bit to where the average car payment is $757 a month. That's a lot, and the average new car payment is over $1,000. I remember we used to call it the comma coma, right? Like when Sam would give me a pencil and it had a freaking comma in it, I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know if I can do that. There's no way he can afford it, and I haven't even like taken it out to the customer yet, or taken it out to the customer. So that's reality.
And what are some ways? I mean, that's on the used car side. But on the new car side, what are some ways that maybe I was just talking to a dealership here locally on Friday. They had me come in and do like a sales meeting for them, and we got to talking a little bit in their rural area. All right, I thought we were tiny in Paris. When these guys were ready, I said, we had this small town little store, and I said 9,700 people, and they kind of all like jaws just dropped because they're making we sound like the big city to them because they had like a population of 3,000 people or something.
Yeah.
But we were talking about new cars and the affordability aspect and things like that. And there's the one thing people are scared to friggin' death of, but it's the L word, leases. If you're on a new car, especially, I know there's some places that do used car leasing. I never really understood it or got into it, but on the new car side, on the leases, guys, that's it's the only way I buy my vehicles, and I drive a lot, but it's the only way I buy my vehicle. So, what are some advantages? Because since we're talking about standards and expectations here,
Yeah.
what are some standards and expectations of how we can make sure people understand that? Because we have to understand that most people, listen to this. I mean, they're in automotive. They're trying to figure that out too. I mean, what's some ways that they can get around that without saying the lease word? Because people are terrified of the lease word.
Yeah, I think, and whether you're selling them or you're the consumer, right? Because I think you need to be educated both
ways. I remember taking my wife home the first lease, and she freaked out. She's like, I'm not leasing anything, and I've already signed. So, but because she was freaked out because the lease word. So that's a good thing. Yes, you need to understand both ways. I mean,
yeah. Well, and you only know what you know, right? I think Glenn says you don't know what you don't know, and it's true, because if you've always done a traditional retail purchase, and your parents did and your grandparents did and they did before, like 30 years ago, there used to be called what was called an open-ended lease, and there's no longer such thing because of the bad reputation it gained, and because of the way the dealer was able to manipulate the numbers to where they could change the lease while you were in the lease, so they never really lost, right? And the manufacturer never really lost, or they could tweak things that they shouldn't have been able to tweak, right? So it gained its bad rep for a good reason, but times have changed. The FTC stepped in, compliance stepped in. They've really regulated the buying experience for consumers. So I would say it's definitely safe now. Lease isn't a word that we should shy from. And I think the biggest thing is the education. Like we are looked at as salespeople, finance people, whatever your position is at a dealership. You need to look at yourself as an educator, because that's what we are. We educate people. And I preach this to my people that I work with, is like, not everybody wants to learn at school, right?
There you go.
You get that customer that doesn't want to hear it, that's always heard bad things about it, that is just always do what they will always do, right? And sometimes we retreat and we don't educate them properly. That would be like a teacher hearing a student saying, I don't want to learn math today, and saying, okay, you can leave my class, right? It doesn't happen. That's not, we need to lead and not be led. We need to be the educators. And that's the first piece, is to educate the consumers, or educate yourself if you are a consumer, about the different options that are available. Lease is not for everybody, right? I'll go ahead and say that.
Oh, no.
For everybody. And you need to know if you're in that category where it would be for you. For me, it just works perfect, right? Because I trade out of my stuff every 2 to 3 years anyway, right? And I don't drive a whole lot of mileage, because Destiny's got another car that she can take the fam. We can go on vacations, all the things. On that topic, and I don't mean to rant, I had some range anxiety today. I got at least a Hummer.
For those of you who don't know, he leases one of the Hummers, and that's the reason why when he was doing, I will not lie, I was real tempted. And I'm like, this is a fun vehicle, but okay, where was your range anxiety? Because these are fun to hear.
Yes. So I was going to Georgetown, which those of you who don't know is about 30 minutes tops from where I live. And it's mostly interstate driving. Well, it's like 3 degrees in Lexington at this point with wind chill, right? So it's super cold. And everybody's heard of EV batteries not doing the best in cold. Well,
so is that true? Is that true?
It's 800% true.
Okay.
Yeah, I tested it today. So I was at 165 mileage, right? Which is plenty to get there and back. It's a 20-mile, if that, drive. And I get stopped in traffic. The interstate's kind of backed up. Takes me a few minutes and longer. I look down and it's below 100, and I've gone 20, not even 20 miles, 18 miles at this point.
Wow, okay.
60-something miles. So I'm like, oh, God. At this point, I'm freaking out because I can look at the other side of the interstate, and it's backed up. So I'm like, dude, if I get stuck, it's like when you got the low light on your gas.
Yeah.
No gas station for miles. So I finally get back home, and it took over 115 miles to go a 40-round trip, a 40-mile trip.
Wow.
So, and it usually doesn't do that if the weather's right, if it's, all the stars align. So I will tell you, if you're looking to get into the EV world and you're in a very cold environment, I might reconsider it.
Well, I mean, here's my own little cold weather story. So those of you that know me, I love I love working out. My wife, we both like the fitness side of it. I'll track on my watch, like when it snows, it's a nice little workout. And yesterday we went out. We've got so much ice here in Georgetown, Kentucky, that I was literally a snow shovel was not breaking through it. So I was trying to find gardening tools to like break through, and it was breaking through and creating these blocks of ice. So my wife said I looked like Kristoff from like the movie Frozen, because I'm picking up these big slabs of like ice and like heaving them. I did my sidewalk, and then as I did finish my sidewalk, these guys walked by me with one's riding on a bobcat, the other one's just like walking down with like a pickaxe on his arm. I mean, it looked funky to think it would look at it. And I'm like, where were you guys at like 10, 15 minutes ago, joking around with them? But then I'm like, how much do you guys charge, by the way? They were like $60 for a driveway. I'm like, sold. You can do my driveway. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm out. I'm not doing it. It's too cold for this stuff, and I'm not breaking. They literally were in my driveway with pickaxes. I mean, it looked like they were breaking apart my driveway. They got pickaxes and bobcats and stuff like this, getting these chunks of ice that off of it. So yeah, this cold weather stuff can just move on. I'm done.
It just shows, right? Like when you have a problem and somebody is there with a solution, you honestly, if they would have said 120, Sam, you'd probably been like, go ahead. You know what I mean? Like
probably at that point, because we'd been out there for I think 2 hours at that point, had only done my sidewalk, only done the sidewalk in front of my house. And like, I'm like this. And every time I take the tool down and like try to crack through the ice, I don't know if for those of you who's ever played baseball before, and you swing at one of those metal bats, and when it's cold out, and you get like a stinger in your hands when you hit the ball wrong, it's exactly the way this felt. I'd hit it, it hit the concrete, and my hands were like, I'm dropping the tool because it like hurts so bad. So anyway, we've talked a lot of finance on this one, so we need to get off the finance side of it, man. And like, let's think of like the standards on like the other side of it. When you were on the sales floor and on the manager, so any salesperson out there will be able to pertain to this. What were some standards that you set yourself up for? In my eyes, it was this. Okay, what the rules that we had was, you had to sell something, 1 car per day. All right. If you don't sell a car, it's whatever. But 1 car per day, so 1 unit per day. 30 conversations, not contacts. I don't want fake. You're picking up the phone and calling 30 people. That doesn't count. Okay. And 2 social media posts, because if we've discussed on here before, and we'll continue to discuss as we get some guests on here, social media is the thing to kind of play with. So what kind of standards did you set yourself up for, though, when you were like on the sales floor, when you're one of my triplets, before you actually got into the finance office? What happened there as far as, that goes?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. You lost it for a second. So as far as standards on the sales floor, my standard was to survive Sam's wrath for the day, right? Like that was
most people's. Most people were trying to do that. Most people were trying to do that, depending on the mood I was in. Depending on the mood I was in that day.
If you didn't sell shit, don't get around Sam. If you had a trifecta, go shoot the shit with Sam. No, I'm just kidding. But for real, it was kind of a flight or fight mode, right? Fight or flight, whichever way you say it. But it was like, just sell a car, just get in front of people, just try to do it, especially when I was first starting out, right? Like when I was first starting out, it was a lot freaking better than detail, right? So I basically was like, okay, how do I keep this job, right? I think there's probably a lot of people listening, like if they haven't been in sales a long time, or if they're just starting in this career or thinking about getting in some type of sales, it was like, just go do what the job requires and figure out how to sell something. That might be staying on the phone all day. It might be shooting random videos, finding something unique to set myself apart. I think was one of my first goals or targets or standards, whatever you want to call it, was like, hey, how do I separate myself from the 20-something, 40-something at some point salespeople that we had, right? I needed to find my own niche market. And Glenn talks about this too, the creating that avatar, that perfect ideal customer that you want to do business with. And thinking of it as, and we talked about this in a couple other episodes.
Well, let's say that for a second. How do you create that avatar?
Yeah, so I think it's just who do you relate best with? Who do you like to do business with? Who do you like to conversate with? And if you got to pick what type of person that you are around, who would it be? What attributes would they have? So for
So
me,
would each salesperson have like maybe a different avatar, or the organization, do they have an avatar, or?
I think all the above. I think your organization should have an avatar. I think
Okay.
that you can narrow it down specifically to what, like, if we had we had a female salesperson that really honed in on like single moms or on women in sales professions or business positions. Like she wanted to communicate with those type of people better because she could relate. And anytime that we can have what we talk about, conversations over closing, right? Or conversations over presentations, or however we want to word it. We all use, and I say we all, Glenn, Sam, and myself, we all use the same tactics of we've got to relate. We got to be human, right? And to be human and to relate and to conversate, it's easier to do with people that you know, like, and trust. And that's what I wanted to shoot for. I wanted to find the people that I'd like to sit and have a conversation with, and it was a lot easier to sell at that point. So that was one of my.
Well, and that's what's happened, I think, over. I just got off the phone with somebody earlier, and they were, mentioned that most of their salespeople were hired right around COVID, maybe like right after COVID. At that point, everything became a transaction. Everything became transactions. We dehumanized, the whole purchasing part of it by taking the conversations out of it and making everything truly a transaction. Like, how fast can I get this done without talking to this person? Because there was a time when you couldn't get into the vehicle with people. You're kind of talking to people like 6 feet away. There were things like that. So that's kind of the way some people learn how to sell. And now that we're back to actually selling with conversations, people they don't really understand. People don't want to have conversations. Take today's, not knocking today's generation, but take today's generation. They'd rather text message somebody than call somebody.
It's like you going on a date, and during the date you ask them, "Hey, you think I'm gonna get lucky tonight?" Right? It's like, come on, man, you got to go through the steps, bro. You got to do the things. You can't just
Thinking that nobody even asks anybody out anymore. They ask kids nowadays. They're asking each other out by text message.
Yeah.
It's just that's the way things go nowadays. But now flipping that real quick though, I will say, and I had a communication with like a BDC manager yesterday. I do think that it's changed a little bit to where I think that today's market, I think, responds better to a text message, and that by text messaging somebody and then calling them versus calling them first. I know, like, especially the smarter that these things get. My phone is set up to where it goes automatically to voicemail if it's not saved in my phone. So
you're a freaking iPhone dude, and I am too. But you're like all into the tech. The new feature or whatever. I got the new update that was like 4 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
The new update that says, what does it say? Scan my calls. Like basically makes the person put their info so that you listen to it. I don't really want it. You don't have to take the call. Like that's going to change the game too. So I agree with you, man. Calling might get pushed back a little bit. One thing that we don't see enough of, and that's still going to stay around for a while, is video. Because if I get a video from somebody like a salesperson, I'm going to watch. I'm be like, okay. And I buy a lot of shit, I'd like to think, and I don't get a lot of videos, right? And that's one thing I bring up. Like I bought and I brought this up last time. Bought an expensive couch from a local furniture place, and he's texting and he's doing his follow up and all the things. And when I bought the couch, I'm like, bro, why don't you start sending videos? He sent me the other day. He sent me a couple videos that he sent to his clients, and he's like, bro, thank you for the pointers, right? Like I'm always looking to help somebody out if I can, and that's one thing that. It's the same, like it doesn't take much energy or effort. It's going to be weird. It's going to be uncomfortable. We didn't imagine we're going to do this podcast 5 years ago, right? But the more that you get in front of
1 year ago.
Yeah, right. 1 year ago. The way that for Sam 1 year ago, I started to get acclimated, right? But yeah, it's like do the simple things that yet set you apart. And one of those is just be unique with video. I think Gotta take
Well, and a good pointer like on the video part is just pretend like you're talking FaceTiming a friend. Just pretend like a lot of people nowadays. That's how they instead of the phone calls, they're FaceTiming nowadays, right? So
Yep.
you can FaceTime somebody because my niece and nephew, that's what they do. They'll FaceTime me and Jennifer. They don't call us, they FaceTime, and it's like, okay, so if you can FaceTime me, why can't you shoot a video to send to somebody, a stranger?
Hey,
Hey,
one,
they don't know who
one
you
last
are.
one last thing on the videos. If you video, please don't just send a video of the car and your voice in the
No,
background. Like, people want to see people. Put your face in there. Put other
they
people in there. Be funny. Don't be a freaking robot. That's the
and
biggest
especially in
thing.
today's world, when you say robot, AI, man, I could go out and I could ask it to shoot me a video of any kind of car I want to. How do they know? They want to be sure. So, Evan, you said we got some questions. So,
Yes.
from some people, what we got?
Yep. So our first question, it says, how many non-negotiables should a salesperson or an F&I professional really have? How many non-negotiables should a salesperson or a finance person really have? I'll let you go at it first, Sam.
I think that it really comes down to the list of what you want to accomplish. I think your non-negotiables for a salesperson should be, sell one car today, make 30 conversations today, and 2 social media posts today. Those need to be your non-negotiables, because what that's going to do is kind of lead that to almost like a to-do. I talk about it with like my teams sometimes of like you could time block. Some people like the time block. I never have really gotten to the habit of time blocking, even though I teach it sometimes and have tried doing it sometimes. I have a harder problem with time blocking because I'm also that guy that will jump out of one thing and jump in to help somebody else. So it's kind of a little bit more difficult to me. So I use almost my non-negotiables as like a to-do list. Same thing for managers, follow up and that type of thing. So what do you think on the F&I side though?
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific number. Like, I wouldn't look for a specific number of tasks or things, but I would keep it shorter than longer. And the reason I say that is if I get a list that's 15 to 20 items long, I get overwhelmed and I'm only going to finish the things that I think I can finish, right? So I would eliminate the ones that are like, okay, I could do without, and only start with this would have a massive impact, right? So I'd say 3 to 5 tops of things that would massively change the game. That's where I would start my focal points.
And I think that, because I think you said like a list of like 5 or something like that. But honestly, I thought of 2 more. Honestly, on that list of non-negotiables needs to be come in every day with a positive attitude, no matter what you're doing. Because the way we trained it was once you entered those 4 walls, everything outside didn't matter. And I think the last one on the list needs to be not to take home your problems, not to, leave your problems at work, leave them in the car. But when you walk through those doors, your significant other, your kids, if you have them, hell, your dog, they don't want to deal with your problems that you had for the today. So leave those issues aside.
Yep, I agree. Let's move on to the next one real quick. We got a few. I'm gonna skim through them real quick. One of them says, how am I supposed to set standards? Ooh, this one's rough. How am I supposed to set standards when my own boss doesn't model them?
Well, buddy, the key comes in is this: you can control what you can control, and you can't control what your boss does. And honestly, in my eyes, that's not really a leader. So you want to find somebody that is a leader that can lead by example. And that didn't necessarily ever mean the person that was training me or leading me. I've worked at dealerships and businesses before to where honestly I was almost embarrassed of my leader, the person that ran the place, and I knew my standards were a little bit higher than that. So I'd say control what you can control, and if you want to stay with those standards, that's on you. But if you know that you really should be focused on other standards, then you need to really dig in, and those are the standards you live by. Glenn talks about it a lot when he first came to like Dan Cummins. Everybody's in Carhartts and flannels. Glenn came in a suit, shirt and tie. Those were his standards. So I kind of think that's where I would take that to.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. Just acting in the best interest of the company being yourself, right? Because we talk
Hmm.
about building a business inside of that business. You're using that business to help you fuel your business, right? Through resources and all the other things. So I think taking an extra step and saying, looking at yourself and saying, hey, if nobody else was in charge of me and I was the boss, would my standards be lower or would they be higher? Like where do I stand with that? I think that we've got time for one more. Um, where should I start if my store currently has zero standards as far as like he's a salesperson, so as far as selling cars or expectations, there are none. It's really the wild west. So where do they start? And I think we touched on it a little bit throughout, but we can go ahead and elaborate a little bit. Where do they start? Square one. They've been selling cars for a while, but no standards set, and they want to start getting more structured.
Yeah, I think that you start looking at your structure like the day. What do you know are things that are truly non-negotiables for you for the day? Your follow-up, that's a key. Whether it's a smaller store, I said 30 conversations. There's stores out there that there's no way you're going to talk to 30 people in a day. So maybe that's 10 conversations. So it's whatever your store kind of has for that. But your follow-up, your social media, these are things you can control. Did you sell a car today? We sit there and we think about, okay, how much control do I have over selling a car or not? You have all the control, right? If you're the people that say you have no control are the ones that's waiting for the up bus, waiting for the customers to walk through the door instead of going out there and trying to find a customer, right? Your store sells X amount of cars. Your store sells 70, 80 cars a month and you got 10 salespeople. You're fighting for everything. However, if you're able to go out there and find your own customers, you're controlling your own destiny here. You're controlling what you do either with that company or with another company.
I agree. And like what you always say, man, win the day, right? So it's like, what does that mean to you? And just win the freaking day. We just do the things that require you to get the W, right? Like we reference athletes in sports a lot. And sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes like that Denver Patriots game that we just saw, right? It was a 10-7 AFC championship, right?
Missed field goals
Missed field
galore, and I
goals,
mean,
throwbacks,
just not, yeah.
fumbled, freaking mess. But at the end of the day, one of the teams got a W, right? And that's what truly mattered. It wasn't what happened during the game. Yeah, that was some highlights and news, but on that board, on that record board, the W and the L's, they don't have an explanation near them. They don't have an explanation why they won. It says who won and who lost. So at the end of the day, just do
Well,
what it
that's
takes.
good. Yeah, that's good because literally you're going to look back. You're just going to see,
Yeah,
Patriots 10, Denver 7. You're not going to see that there was a whiteout storm. You're not going to
right.
see anything. You're just going to see that final score.
That's right. The final score, win the day. And I think with that, we're going to win the day and we're going to wrap this up. So, Sam, anything else that you wanted to wrap this up with?
No, I just want to make sure if this helped you at all, let's send this out to one salesperson, okay, who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, so that way we can answer your questions, okay? What's the biggest thing that we can help you with? A big objection, something that you're just running through. And you remember that no matter what you're going through, there's always that opportunity to get 1% better.
Let's go. Let's win the day. Hey, real quick, next time we're going to go over the 8 pillars. I know we ran out of time today. The next episode, if you're listening, look for the 8 pillars. All right.
The 8 pillars to be able to go ahead and live your life the right way. So, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. We'll see you guys next time. And until then, let's win the day.
Win the day, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.